If you think pennies are just pocket change, think again. These rare Lincoln pennies are the true definition of hidden wealth. Welcome to the world of numismatics, where a single coin could change your fortune. Make sure to watch till the end, as we uncover some of the most valuable and ultra-rare Lincoln pennies that could be sitting in your collection right now. In the world of coin collecting, certain coins stand out not just for their historical significance or rarity, but for the sheer excitement they inspire when discovered in a roll of pennies or dug up at an estate sale. One such coin, seemingly humble in appearance but holding a fascinating backstory, is the 2017 United States 1-cent penny. A coin that most of us overlook in our daily transactions, yet one that has quietly captivated numismatists and collectors alike for years. To truly understand the significance of this particular penny, we need to take a journey back in time, long before 2017, to the origins of the 1-cent coin itself. The penny, as it's commonly known, has been an essential part of American currency since the late 18th century. The first 1-cent coin was introduced in 1793, during George Washington's presidency. Made of pure copper and weighing almost twice what it does today, the early pennies were larger and more robust, a far cry from the small, light coin we now find in our pocket change. Through the years, the design, composition, and production methods of the penny have evolved, with various redesigns reflecting shifts in American society, politics, and art. From the iconic Liberty cap to the Indian head cent, and finally, to the famous Lincoln Memorial design, which began circulating in 1959, the penny has undergone many transformations, but it wasn't until 2009 that the United States Mint decided to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln penny with a special 4-part series of reverse designs, featuring significant moments in Abraham Lincoln's life. This special release was followed by another notable change in 2017, which brings us to the coin we're focusing on today, the 2017 1-cent penny. Unlike the earlier releases in the Lincoln series, the 2017 penny did not introduce any radical new designs or alterations. Instead, it was a continuation of the familiar Lincoln portrait on the obverse, with the classic shield reverse design, which had been in circulation since 2010. However, subtle changes and certain key details make this penny a standout for collectors, one that would ultimately pique the interest of numismatists and casual enthusiasts alike. At first glance, the 2017 penny might appear like any other. It's made from copper-plated zinc, weighing 2.5 grams, and measuring 19 millimeters in diameter. On the front, you'll find the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, with the familiar inscription, "In God We Trust," to the left, "Liberty," to the right, and the year of mintage, 2017, just below the bust. This side of the coin is essentially unchanged from the design created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, and it's one of the most iconic representations of an American leader in coinage history. Flipping the coin over, we see the reverse, a modern shield, with 13 vertical stripes representing the original 13 colonies, and a banner across the top inscribed with the word E pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This design was introduced in 2010 and was created by designer John Flanagan. It's a symbolic reflection of the nation's unity and strength, something that resonates deeply with the American spirit. However, there's more to this coin than just its design. Let's talk about the production process that gives the penny its unique characteristics. Minting a penny is no simple task, as it requires precision, efficiency, and careful handling. The U.S. Mint is responsible for producing billions of pennies every year, and each coin undergoes a rigorous inspection to ensure its quality and consistency. The 2017 penny was no different, with the Mint producing millions of these coins across multiple facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While most pennies make their way into circulation without ever attracting much attention, it's the pennies that somehow deviate from the norm that garner the most intrigue. Some of these deviations are the result of errors that occur during the minting process. The 2017 penny, in particular, holds a special place in the hearts of collectors because of such an error. It's a perfect example of how even the most seemingly mundane coin can hold incredible value when certain details are just a bit off. The most notable error that collectors have identified in the 2017 pennies is related to the design elements on the reverse side of the coin. While most of the 2017 pennies feature a clear, crisp shield design, some coins show an odd misalignment or doubling effect in the engraving of the shield's vertical stripes. These subtle flaws, often referred to as die errors, are the result of a misalignment in the die used to stamp the design onto the coins. These errors are rare, and as such, they make the affected coins highly sought after by collectors. One such error, known as a double die error, occurs when the die strikes the coin multiple times, causing the design to appear doubled. In the case of the 2017 penny, this doubling effect is most noticeable on the vertical stripes of the shield. The doubling can create a ghostly shadow effect, giving the impression that the lines are repeating. This error is particularly exciting because it's one of the most sought-after types of minting flaws among collectors, often making these coins far more valuable than their regular counterparts, but not every 2017 penny has this error. In fact, finding one is incredibly rare. That's part of the allure of collecting coins in the first place, the thrill of hunting for that rare piece, hidden among thousands of identical ones, hoping to find something special. And while most pennies that end up in your change jar are worth just 1 cent, the few with errors can fetch significantly higher amounts, sometimes even thousands of dollars. So, how exactly does the value of these pennies stack up? Before we dive into the value of the 2017 penny, let's talk about how much a typical penny is worth. Most of us know that the 1 cent coin is used for small transactions and typically isn't worth much more than its face value. But for a collector, things change. The value of a coin is determined by a combination of factors: its rarity, its condition, and, perhaps most importantly, the demand for it among collectors. For example, a penny in pristine condition with no signs of wear, called a mint state penny, can be worth more than its face value, especially if it's from a particular year or minting location. Coins from certain years, like the 1909 SVDB Lincoln cent, can fetch tens of thousands of dollars due to their rarity and desirability among collectors. Similarly, modern errors like the 2017 penny with a double die or misaligned design can become a collector's dream, dramatically increasing their worth. Now, let's get to the exciting part: the value of the 2017 penny. If you happen to find a 2017 penny with one of these rare minting errors, specifically the double die or misaligned shield, you could be looking at a coin worth far more than 1 cent. In fact, some of these error pennies have sold for as much as $18,000 at auctions or through private sales. So, what makes the 2017 penny with a double die or misaligned shield so valuable? It's the rarity of the error combined with the increasing interest in error coins among collectors. These types of flaws, though they might seem small or insignificant to the casual observer, make the coin unique and highly desirable to those in the numismatic community. The fact that so few of these pennies were produced with such errors only adds to their mystique and value. Up next, the 2017 USA 1 cent penny. You may be thinking, it's just a penny, right? Well, you're about to discover that this little coin is far more than what it seems. In fact, the 2017 penny has quite an interesting story behind it, and it's a story that has fascinated collectors and numismatists alike, with a surprising twist at the end that will leave you amazed. First, let's rewind to the year 2017. It was a year of significant change and progress in the world, with new technological advancements, political shifts, and a rapidly changing economy. But while many of the world's most talked about events may have been taking place in newsrooms and on the world stage, the US Mint was quietly producing a coin that would eventually become a hidden treasure for collectors: the 2017 1 cent penny. Now, we all know what a penny looks like, right? The iconic Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse, and the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. Since 1909, the image of Lincoln has graced the penny, honoring the 16th President of the United States. Over the years, the penny's design has undergone a few changes, but the essential look of the coin has remained remarkably consistent. So, why should we pay special attention to the 2017 version? The answer lies not in its outward appearance, but in the small details of its production and, more importantly, in the errors that occurred during the minting process. Before we dive into these errors, let's take a quick look at the basic facts of the 2017 penny. In 2017, the penny was still made from a copper-plated zinc composition, a blend of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. The coin weighs 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters, which is standard for most pennies in circulation today. The design on the obverse, of course, features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, and the reverse still displays the Lincoln Memorial. This has been the case since 1959. But here's where things get interesting. As with all coins, the US Mint struck billions of these pennies in 2017, producing them at both the Philadelphia and Denver Mint facilities. However, during the minting process, some coins suffered from errors that would elevate the value of certain pennies well beyond their face value. One of the most fascinating errors that occurred with the 2017 penny is the double die error, a mistake that makes the coin appear as if it has been struck twice, causing the image and lettering to overlap slightly. This phenomenon is a result of the die used to imprint the design becoming misaligned during the minting process. The result is a coin that's not only unique, but incredibly rare. In the case of the 2017 penny, the double die error typically appears in the inscriptions, especially on the word liberty and the phrase, "In God we trust," which seem to have an extra layer of text when you look closely. These subtle but clear errors are a big draw for collectors because they are so difficult to spot at first glance, and the mistake itself is quite rare. In fact, finding a double die 2017 penny is like finding a needle in a haystack, making it highly desirable for those who collect error coins, but that's not all. Another error that became famous among collectors is the off-center strike. When a penny isn't aligned correctly in the press, part of the design can be missing or skewed, resulting in a coin that looks quite different from your average penny. In the case of the 2017 penny, this error is particularly intriguing because it's a reminder that even the most routine minting process can result in a piece of history with unique characteristics. Now, you might be wondering, how much can a 2017 penny with one of these errors really be worth? After all, it's just a penny. Well, let me tell you, a 2017 penny with a double die or off-center strike can fetch an impressive price in the marketplace, far beyond its face value. In fact, depending on the rarity of the error and the condition of the coin, these pennies can sell for thousands of dollars. That's right, this seemingly humble 1-cent coin can be worth as much as $18,000 if it's one of the rarest examples with a double die or off-center error. The value of these coins skyrockets because error coins like these are not only rare but also highly coveted by collectors. For many, owning a rare error coin is a prized achievement. It's a way of holding a piece of history, a small but fascinating anomaly in the world of currency. And for some lucky collectors, the 2017 penny with its minting flaw is just the kind of treasure they've been searching for. Now, if you're out there checking your pockets for that 2017 penny, make sure to look carefully. Identifying these errors takes a trained eye, and it's not always easy to spot them at first glance. But if you're lucky enough to find a 2017 penny with a double die or an off-center strike, don't just toss it in a jar. Get it professionally graded by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin will be, and you'll want to make sure that your coin is properly assessed before you consider selling or auctioning it. So, next time you pick up a penny, don't just throw it into a jar or let it sit in your change purse. That seemingly ordinary coin could be worth far more than you realize. In the case of the 2017 penny, it could be worth as much as $18,000, a value that could truly surprise any collector fortunate enough to find it. Let me take you on a journey through history. A journey that starts with a single coin, a humble 1-cent penny from 1975. You might think, a penny? What's so special about that? And to most people, a penny is just a penny. A small, copper-colored coin that we often disregard in our day-to-day lives. But when it comes to the world of coin collecting, this seemingly insignificant piece of currency can hold incredible value, sometimes even worth tens of thousands of dollars. And yes, that includes the 1975 penny. This particular penny has a fascinating story that begins not in 1975, but long before. To fully appreciate the value of a 1975 penny, we need to understand the evolution of American currency and the important role the 1-cent piece has played throughout history. The U.S. Mint began producing the 1-cent coin, or the penny, in 1793. Back then, the penny was made of pure copper and was much larger than the coin we know today. The penny's design and composition have changed many times since then, but its significance in American life has remained. The penny has been a symbol of both prosperity and hardship, always present in people's pockets, but rarely in their thoughts. However, one thing about the penny has remained constant over the years: the desire for its design to reflect the nation's values. In 1909, to mark the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint debuted the Lincoln cent. The obverse of this coin featured a portrait of President Lincoln, while the reverse displayed a simple yet powerful image of 2 wheat stalks, symbolizing the strength and unity of America's agricultural roots. This wheat penny design would remain in circulation until 1958, when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which depicted the iconic monument in Washington, D.C. Fast forward to 1975. The country was in the midst of political and economic change. The 1970s were marked by inflation, an energy crisis, and social upheaval, but the penny continued to circulate, still bearing the image of President Lincoln. However, 1975 was a unique year in American coinage history. The U.S. Mint was about to make a change, and little did anyone know that this change would impact the value of a particular penny for decades to come. To understand the significance of the 1975 penny, we need to look at the minting process and the changes that were happening in the production of coins. By the early 1970s, there were growing concerns about the rising cost of copper, the primary metal used in pennies. In 1973, the U.S. Mint began experimenting with using a different composition for the 1-cent coin. The result was a penny that still looked the same on the outside, but was now made from a mixture of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But what makes the 1975 penny particularly special is a subtle, almost unnoticed change in the design. While the reverse of the penny still featured the Lincoln Memorial, and the obverse still displayed Lincoln's familiar portrait, there was something different about the dies used to strike the coins that year. The dies used in the production of the 1975 pennies were actually a mix of 1974 and 1975 dies, resulting in a curious error that would become a collector's dream. In the transition between the dies of 1974 and 1975, some of the 1975 pennies were struck using a 1974 reverse die. This meant that, despite being minted in 1975, the reverse side of some of these pennies still bore the 1974 design, which featured the wheat ears, also known as the wheat stalks, on the reverse side instead of the Lincoln Memorial. This was an extremely rare error, a transitional design mistake that most people at the time would have overlooked. The error itself is what makes the 1975 penny so incredibly valuable today. You see, the 1975 penny with the 1974 wheat reverse is one of the rarest and most sought-after varieties in modern coin collecting. Most of the 1975 pennies were struck with the correct Lincoln Memorial reverse, but these rare few, with the 1974 wheat reverse, are true gems. They are prized for their rarity, their historical significance, and the fascinating story behind their creation. So, how do you tell the difference between a standard 1975 penny and one of these rare error coins? It's all about the reverse. The wheat reverse features two stalks of wheat on either side of the words, 1 cent, and above the wheat, you'll find the inscription, E pluribus unum. If you look closely, you'll see that the 1974 design is more detailed, with the wheat stalks appearing thinner and more pronounced compared to the Lincoln Memorial design that replaced it in 1959. It's a subtle difference, but one that can make all the difference in the world to a collector. Now, you might be asking, how much is this rare penny worth? After all, it's just a penny, right? Well, that's where things get really exciting. While a standard 1975 penny is worth, of course, just 1 cent, a 1975 penny with the 1974 wheat reverse can be worth a staggering amount. Because of the rarity of the error, the price of these coins has skyrocketed in recent years. A well-preserved 1975 penny with the 1974 wheat reverse has been known to fetch prices in the range of $112,000 at auction. It's important to note that not all 1975 pennies with the 1974 reverse are in mint condition, and the condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. A coin with minimal wear and a clear, sharp strike is worth far more than a penny that is scratched, worn down, or damaged in any way. Coins that are graded by professional numismatic services such as the PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, tend to command the highest prices at auction. These grading services assign a grade to the coin based on its condition, ranging from good to mint state. Coins that are in near perfect condition, with no signs of wear and clear details, are considered the most valuable. If you happen to find a 1975 penny with the rare 1974 wheat reverse, you may be holding onto a small fortune. But before you get too excited, it's important to have the coin properly authenticated and graded. A professional grader will be able to confirm the rarity of the coin and help determine its value in the current market. Given that the prices of these rare pennies have been steadily increasing, now may be the perfect time to take a closer look at any 1975 pennies you have lying around. In the world of coin collecting, sometimes the most valuable coins aren't the ones that are immediately obvious. It's often the small details, the unnoticed errors, and the pieces of history that get overlooked by most people, that can end up being worth the most. And the 1975 penny with the 1974 wheat reverse is a perfect example of this. So, the next time you're going through your change, take a second to really look at those pennies. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. And for those lucky enough to stumble upon a 1975 penny with the 1974 wheat reverse, you might just have a coin worth $112,000. A single penny, worth more than you could ever imagine. Let's step back in time, to the year 1970, a year that marked a significant moment in the history of American coinage. The 1970 U.S. 1-cent penny, a seemingly ordinary coin that many of us have handled at some point, would go on to become something far more valuable than anyone could have imagined. But how did this humble penny turn into a highly coveted treasure? To understand its journey, we first need to dive deep into the coin's history, its design, and the factors that would ultimately make it so special. The year 1970 was a time of great change in the United States. The country was still deeply involved in the Vietnam War, and domestic issues were stirring as the civil rights movement and anti-war protests filled the streets. In the world of coinage, however, the U.S. Mint was just doing its job, producing the everyday coins that circulated throughout the nation. Among them was the 1-cent piece, or penny, which featured the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. This design, created by Victor David Brenner, had been in circulation since 1909, and it had become a symbol of Lincoln's legacy and leadership during the Civil War. But as we examine the 1970 penny, there's more to the story than just its design. By this time, copper, the metal used to produce pennies, was becoming more expensive due to rising global prices. This, in turn, was a growing concern for the U.S. Mint, which had to balance production costs with the need for an abundant supply of coins. As copper prices climbed, the Mint began experimenting with different alloys, and by the end of the 1970s, it would eventually shift away from using pure copper to a copper-clad zinc design. But for the 1970 penny, it was still made primarily of copper, and it would soon become the center of a numismatic mystery. Now, you might wonder, what exactly happened to make the 1970 penny so special? Well, it all started with an unusual and rare error. The 1970 penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but, unusually, some of these pennies were produced without the D mint mark. This is the key element that set the 1970 penny apart from others. Most U.S. pennies carry a mint mark to indicate where they were struck. Typically, coins produced in Philadelphia are not marked with any mint mark, while coins from the Denver Mint bear the D mint mark. However, a few 1970 pennies were minted in Philadelphia without the mint mark altogether, an oversight or error that wouldn't be discovered until years later. But why did this matter so much? In the world of numismatics, or coin collecting, rarity is everything. Every minting anomaly, every error, is an opportunity for collectors to snag a valuable piece of history. When these unmarked 1970 pennies began to surface, collectors and investors quickly realized they were looking at something special. The missing mint mark was a rare phenomenon, and as any seasoned coin collector knows, rare coins are often the most valuable ones. Imagine this, in the years immediately after 1970, no one was thinking twice about a penny being just a penny. Most people tossed these copper coins into their pockets or jars without a second thought. Yet, as word spread through the numismatic community, savvy collectors started realizing that a small handful of those 1970 pennies lacked the mint mark, and they were becoming increasingly rare. What started as a casual curiosity among collectors soon escalated into a full-fledged treasure hunt. Now, let's understand why this was so intriguing. Coin production is typically very precise. Mint marks are carefully stamped on coins to identify where they were made. The fact that some of the 1970 pennies lacked this mint mark was an anomaly that couldn't easily be explained. Was it an error by the Philadelphia Mint? Or was it something more? This mystery only deepened the allure of the coin, and soon, it was more than just a rare find. It became a symbol of American numismatic history. As time passed, more people began to seek out these rare 1970 pennies. The challenge of finding one grew, and with it, so did the coin's value. In the beginning, these unmarked pennies were worth a little more than face value, but as their rarity became widely recognized, the price steadily increased. Over the years, collectors were willing to pay more for a chance to own a piece of this unique mistake. Coin dealers began reporting record prices for well-preserved examples of the 1970 penny, and auction houses were seeing growing demand, but there's something more to the story than just the penny's rarity. The 1970 penny also represents a moment in time, a reflection of the cultural and political climate of the United States during that period. The late 60s and early 70s were pivotal in American history. The country was undergoing profound social changes, and the world of coinage was also evolving. The transition from using pure copper to mixed alloys was symbolic of the times, an era of change and economic pressure. Owning a 1970 penny today is like holding onto a piece of that complex history. The mystery of the missing mint mark, combined with the penny's connection to a significant moment in American history, has made this coin even more sought after by collectors. With time, its value has continued to rise, and as it has aged, it has become even more valuable. Today, it's not just a rare coin, it's a piece of the American past that speaks to both history buffs and investors alike, and so, the question remains, how much is this rare penny worth today? You may have heard stories about the high price tags associated with rare coins, but you might be shocked to learn just how much a 1970 penny without the mint mark can fetch in today's market. This humble penny, which once seemed so insignificant to most people, has become one of the most valuable coins in the world of numismatics. As of now, a well-preserved 1970 penny without the mint mark can be worth a staggering $119,000. To put it in perspective, that's a small fortune for a coin that most people once casually tossed aside in their spare change. The 1970 penny without the mint mark has defied expectations and become a symbol of how rarity, history, and a bit of good luck can transform something ordinary into a precious gem. Just imagine the excitement if you were to find one of these rare pennies in your pocket change. What once seemed like just another coin is now worth more than most people's homes. The story of the 1970 penny teaches us an important lesson about the value of the overlooked and the unexpected. In the world of numismatics, the smallest details can make the biggest difference, and that missing mint mark, so easy to overlook, turned this ordinary penny into an extraordinary find. So, if you ever find yourself rifling through your change jar or checking your coins at the store, remember, that simple penny might just be worth far more than you think. The 1970 penny without the mint mark is proof that sometimes, hidden treasures are right in front of us, waiting to be discovered.